2030.
2030.
Saudi Arabia, the Public Investment Fund,
It's a
there's a
big
lot of
vision.
excitement
This
around
transformational
Neom specifically.
change, every aspect of the kingdom, economic, social, cultural, religious.
The 2030.
2030.
The 2030.
This is the 2030.
Yalla, 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 yalla.
This is the 2030, episode 6. Hello, Dr. Hanaa. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am good. How's everything going over in London?
Great. I'm about to drive to Sheffield, actually, which is in the north of England, for the British Youth Championship, which is a British Youth Fencing Championship, because Faris is one of 8 boys who qualified in London to go fence nationals. Very exciting.
Whoa, Mabruk. That is awesome. Wow.
Thank
One of
you.
8? Only 8 kids?
8.
That's amazing.
8 or 10. Yeah, not very many. Not very many. I think he's 6th. So I think it's 8. Yeah.
Amazing. So how did he get into fencing? Were you like, did he want to get into fencing, or were you like, you need to be good with a sword? You got to be able to handle yourself?
Definitely it was about sword dancing. That's how we started. No. It was an after school club. Actually, it's really funny. It was an after school club, and he used to fence recreationally, whatever. And one day I picked him up from school, and he was just beside himself, crying, so upset. And this is right before COVID. And I'm like, what's going on? And he said they did this little competition. It was the last day of the club, and he lost every single one of his matches. And then he won one at the very end. And he was like, at least I didn't lose everyone. And then the kid was like, I let you win. And that just destroyed him. He was so upset. So I was like, all right, I'll show you. You're going to the Olympics. No, we found an instructor that came home and did one-on-one coaching for him for a while and got really into it. And then he joined a club. And again, there's more intense practice coaching, better than kind of the little bits that happened after school. And he's been doing it for several years with a team, and he loves it. So he's, definitely progressed and done better. But it was this kind of mama bear inside of me that came out to protect him and wanted to give him extra that got him more involved.
That is... That's amazing. I mean, because as you know, a half American, a lot of kids get into sports here in America because their parents are like, you're going to be the best soccer player, football player, basketball player, whatever it is. I mean, sometimes you channel what they're interested in, but usually the sports start really early. So you're just like, we're going to soccer practice now. And it's like, what's soccer? That's cool that it was like his initiative kind of, but that you really poured the kerosene on the fire of it.
I just needed him to have something he's a very competitive kid, and he wants to be good, right? So he wants that excellence. And I'm not very sporty. It's not really like, I never really grew up with sports when I was growing up in Saudi. And so I can't really help him, but I wanted him to feel like he was capable. So, more hours, he wanted it. So we did it. And like Curtis, his coach, was amazing. And he changed weapons. So he doesn't actually train with Curtis anymore because he used to fence with foil, and now he does épée. So I will call Curtis for advice every now and then. That's more related to good sportsmanship, other competitive streaks in his teammates, friends, things like that, and how to deal with the pressure. Because I think Curtis was an amazing coach for that. You don't necessarily get that when you're in a big club, right? But this coach, the one-on-one, means that we have this person that we built a relationship with forever. And yeah, I mean, I think it's important to have a coach that knows what they're talking about, instead of just the parent that's like, I want you to be amazing so I can feel great about myself.
So much in sports is learning sportsmanship. And to me, that's everything. And opposite of you, I grew up playing way too many sports all the way through high school, almost into college, pretty much. And realized that the biggest and most important thing that I could take away from all of it is sportsmanship and leadership and other things. But like winning and losing in the moment as a kid matters a lot to certain kids, but in the end, it doesn't matter at all. So,
That's
it's great that he's in the right spot. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really excited that there's more sports in Saudi today for everybody, because that's something we didn't necessarily learn enough of growing up, especially not girls. And so I'm really happy because it does build so much character.
Yeah. And actually 2 episodes, Hanaa, we kind of try to off the top of our head recite all the sports that are being invested in or developed locally in Saudi, or sort of starting from scratch in Saudi, all the way down to the Neom beach games, which was a hell of a pull from my brain, if I don't mind tooting my own horn. Really cool, though. Actually, and we were talking about this earlier, but there's some really cool facts about fencing that because I don't know anything about it. I've never fenced. I mean, I did like sword fights with my brother when we were like little kids, but it was not a art form, certainly not a sport. Yeah. Fencing is one of only 4 sports that have been featured in every modern Olympics. Did you know the suits are white because they used to put a little piece of like red fabric on the tip of the sword and then it would stick to the uniform? So that's how they would do it before.
To know whether or not they were hit. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'm obviously, I looked this up on the internet, so I'm not like pulling this out of the top of my head, but the tip of the fencing weapon is the second fastest moving object in sport. The first is a marksman's bullet, and it's the only combat sport with no weight classes, which is interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's true. So like when a lot of times when he's fencing, they'll get a double point. They'll both hit each other at the exact same second. And that's really stressful because if you're trying to like fence to 5 points and you get a double point at the 5th one, then you keep going, right? Until one of you, but it is like, I can't even remember, like, because I pay attention most of the time, but not all of it. And there's like, it's a fraction of a second. The difference between when each person hits the other is so small. And when you lose with just 1 point behind, you know that you were probably just as good and you actually probably hit almost at the exact same second, but it was like a nanosecond behind. So
yeah, and that's all done by the like electronic system
electronic,
they have.
yeah.
This is awesome. World's oldest fencing club, Belgium in 1613. So
Wow.
it's just, yeah, this is cool. Well, congrats to Ferris. That's awesome. And good luck to Ferris. Bring home
Thank you.
Get you into the Olympics, get you that ticket to where are the Olympics it's Paris this summer. And then,
hopefully, yeah, maybe not quite yet, but he hopefully will fence for Saudi, inshallah. I'm hopeful. He's good.
okay. So wait, 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. Which
Yeah.
I didn't know about that, but that's cool. Great. And they've got that stadium there, so that's great. And you'll be there next month, maybe to check out the training facilities and make sure he's going to succeed.
Yeah, I'll be
I don't
there
know.
next week. Actually, I'm going to be in Los Angeles next week, so I'll check out the facilities.
Busy travel schedule coming up for the 2030 team.
Yeah.
So if we are a little off on the exact timing of the publishing of these episodes, please, a little forgiveness, but we should be okay. Hannah, what do you think? Let's get into the deep dive this week.
Yeah, are you going to do a deep dive?
I'm going to deep dive. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay. My deep dive today, I want to share a pretty interesting story I heard recently with an update to that story that I heard last week that sort of blew me away. Setting the stage a little bit for this, everything in Saudi Arabia, we've discussed it, is either part of, directly related to, or a result of, or at minimum touched by, or mildly affected by Vision 2030. And the reason why we landed on the name for this podcast, the 2030, is because it really is a term that touches all things happening in Saudi Arabia: social, economic, policy, culture, everything. Vision 2030 is both a goal and a plan. The goals are set, the destination is identified, and then the roadmap is put in place. So I add that context because what is happening is top down, but also only really happens with buy-in, with everyone working on the same page. And we discussed that a few weeks ago with our report card segment on Vision 2030. And if you haven't heard that, check it out. It's in episode, I believe, 4, and you'll see the segment as well on our YouTube page. What's happening and the progress in Saudi Arabia with Vision 2030 is both obvious and incredible. The thing about Vision 2030 is it's a Saudi initiative. It's made in Saudi. And that phrase, made in Saudi, is actually enormously important for Vision 2030's success. For Vision 2030 to be successful, Saudi Arabia needs to be a maker of things. It needs to manufacture, produce, be a logistics hub. It needs these things to create jobs and skilled workers and many things. Most important among them, an economy that isn't going up and down in lockstep with oil prices. Can Saudi Arabia do all of this on its own? I think maybe, but with foreign investment, it goes so much faster. The government knows this, and this is really a cornerstone of the vision. So recently I came across a really interesting story of a company I want to tell you about, and you'll see how it fits into this context. The company is called Johnson Controls, one of the largest companies in the world, Fortune 500 company, an American founded company that makes air conditioners, HVAC stuff, but now it's so large and diversified. It does smart building, security, fire stuff, etc. The company is super old. It goes back to 1883 in the US and Wisconsin. 1883, and I love this. I love these like American business stories, like the kind of stuff you'd see on History Channel. So bear with me. Warren S. Johnson received a patent for the first electric room thermostat. His invention helped launch the building control industry and was the impetus for a new company. Johnson and a group of Milwaukee investors incorporated the Johnson Electric Service Company in 1885. Fast forward almost 140 years later, it's a huge company, 100,000 employees. In 2005, Johnson Controls acquired York International, started in York, Pennsylvania, which is where my dad is from, actually, in 1874, which developed the York brand of refrigeration and HVAC equipment. And at the time of the acquisition, it was the world's largest independent manufacturer of air conditioning, heating, refrigeration, machinery. Okay, so where am I going with this? I mentioned earlier, Vision 2030, basically a large experiment, a well thought out plan. Part of that is to get Saudi Arabia to be a builder and maker of things, made in Saudi. But before the vision, before the local content mandates, before the made in Saudi was ever a thing, Johnson Controls International saw what others didn't. In 2015, before the vision, Johnson Controls saw the region as a great market and also saw an advantage of manufacturing locally in Saudi Arabia to supply the Saudi market, but also the regional market. And this was a business decision for them. They saw the opportunity to have a plant in Saudi Arabia as an American company established as a joint venture to meet demand in the very hot region of the Middle East. I mean, selling air conditioners in Saudi Arabia seems like a good business. They agreed, but they also thought, let's manufacture them here. They did that. Fast forward about 5 years later, while talking about manufacturing and attracting international companies to manufacture in Saudi Arabia locally was becoming a hot topic, Johnson Controls opened up its factory doors, started hiring Saudis, and started actually doing it. And I've toured this factory in Cake, the King Abdullah Economic City. It is not an assembly plant. This is a factory. Raw materials in one side and products out the other. And they've become the go-to supplier for projects large and small, giga projects, smaller projects, because they can make not just line products, but also custom bespoke products for huge projects like the Grand Mosque in Mecca, the Cleveland Clinic in Abu Dhabi. They did the Burj in Dubai. You couldn't list all of them, but if you're a developer and you want made in Saudi, they're top of the line American technology essentially, but manufactured locally in Saudi Arabia. So the story gets even better, especially for Saudi authorities and officials who want to see the kingdom manufacture and not only supply the local market, but to export to regional and global markets. So last week, had a little stint in the hospital, as we talked about on a previous episode. Not great, but all is okay. I spoke from the hospital with the CEO, Dr. Mohammed Al-Sheikh. He's a friend of mine, and he told me something that made my jaw drop. And the more I thought about it, and I had a lot of time to think about it sitting alone in this hospital room, the cooler it seems. The cooler, well, pun intended, I guess, not intended. Dr. Mohammed told me that not only are they starting to use the plant to export around the region, it has been doing this for a while, and now they're ramping up. They're going to start exporting globally. And this is the part that really blew me away. This week, they're having a ceremony at the plant in Cake, north of Jeddah, to celebrate a first. They are going to start exporting Saudi-manufactured chillers back to the U.S. market. The company is calling it, and I think quite fairly, a significant moment for its company's history and also the Saudi-made initiative. JCI, which is Johnson Controls International, is facing a global deficit of 1,000 units per year, and they selected the Saudi factory to bridge this gap. So just thinking about it, U.S.-founded company, 140 years old, really a leading company in the space, invested in the concept of local content and local manufacturing in Saudi Arabia before it was even on vogue in the kingdom. And in their space, they were the first to market with this strategy. They're still the only ones doing it. So now that U.S. founded company, is manufacturing its products in Saudi Arabia and supplying the local market with locally made products, and now the U.S. market with Saudi-made air conditioners. So I did a deep dive on this because I was just sort of like fascinated by the story. But if others are doing what JCA did and does today, Vision 2030 and all of Saudi Arabia is definitely going to benefit from that style of investment into their economy. And if you're an American or you're visiting America starting this summer, you may be in a building that is air conditioned by a Saudi manufactured air conditioning unit, which is kind of mind blowing. But this is just an amazing story. That's my deep dive. Congrats to them and their accomplishment, their achievement here.
Very cool. Yeah, no, thank you for highlighting that and highlighting Made in Saudi, which is a great, one of the great initiatives of the vision, and that it was launched. I think it was launched in by the Ministry of Industry and Mineral Resources in 2021. And it's a National Industrial Development Logistics Program initiative that's managed by the Saudi Export Development Authority. So I think what's really cool about Made in Saudi is, as you said, it's not just about making sure that things look like they're diversifying, but there are true initiatives behind it. And if you look at some of the kind of achievements of Made in Saudi, 1,740 plus companies have signed on, 7,600 Saudi-made products in 16 different sectors, and 180 countries are actually importing Saudi-made products to varying degrees of sophistication, obviously. So what you were talking about is really exciting because, again, this is showing how Saudi's really taking the expertise and developing it, building on it. This is what you want from FDI, right? You want that technological transfer. You want people to benefit from it. You want to create jobs, and you don't want to necessarily have to stay there forever, without anybody benefiting, right? It doesn't all have to get repatriated back to countries that initially came in with the investments. You want a lot of expertise to happen on the ground, and that transfer and collaboration leads to more innovation, I think. And so that's really exciting. Excellent.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And it also kind of ties into Saudi Arabia's interest of being a physical location that is attractive, like its physical position between Europe, the West, and the East. I mean, if you're talking about manufacturing things like chillers that go on top of huge buildings like hospitals, they're massive. And when I visited the factory, they had a couple that they were building for local, apartment complexes or whatever they were, but they're huge. So if you think about it, it's like you're not just shipping boxes and you stack them up, or you can ship them anywhere from America and they go all around the country. You put them on airplanes. These don't really go on airplanes, I don't think. They need to be shipped. And so when your location is, next to the Jeddah port, which I believe is one of the largest in the world, we talked about that in a previous episode as well. You're and KAEC is a port as well. You're strategically located in a port in Saudi Arabia that can access European markets faster and cheaper. Full stop. Or Asian markets faster or cheaper. They just started exporting some as well to China, which also blew my mind, because a lot of other air conditioning manufacturers manufacture in China and export out. And so it's just a really cool story, and it kind of highlights a lot of things that Vision 2030 is trying to do. It's like a successful beta test, I guess you could say. But it is interesting too, because like if they're going to be shipping back to America, there's got to be a serious shortage in America and a serious inability to fill the orders, right? Because I mean, there are many factories for Johnson Controls in America, founded in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I believe it was, or at least got its first round of investment there. So I don't know, just the idea of these air conditioners going onto a ship, going out of Jeddah, coming in wherever they're going to come in, and hitting the U.S. market is cool, really cool.
But I think air conditioning is something that might be prevalent in certain parts of the U.S., but not in all parts of the U.S. So, I mean, I grew up spending my summers in Seattle, and nobody had an AC because it didn't really get very hot most of the year. And even in the summer, you just open the windows and it would be fine. You might get a couple hot days, but a fan would do it. And it's not like that anymore. And so I think that there probably is a shortage in kind of manufacturers for multiple reasons, but part of it is because the demand wasn't there. And I think people are still reluctant. And here in the UK, people judge me for having AC. I get a really good night's sleep on the nights where it's impossible to sleep because it gets really hot and oppressive in the city when it's hot, right? Like if you're out in the countryside, it's no problem. But in the city, all of the roads, the concrete, the buildings, they absorb the heat and it doesn't go away. And it's really difficult to sleep at night when you have stretches of heat waves that go on for several days. It just doesn't cool down at night. Which it does more in Seattle, or at least it has in the past. So I do think that this is an opportunity. Like, obviously, there are people that are against air conditioning for different reasons, but still, I think when you have one, and you need it because it's really hot,
best,
you
yeah.
appreciate it.
Air conditioning is maybe my favorite thing to talk about outside of the weather. Obviously, they're kind of tied together. But yeah, I mean, I cannot sleep in a warm room at all. And my wife likes it to be warm, but I don't. So if it were up to me, I would be sleeping in like a refrigerated box with like 100 blankets, just like barely alive, you know. And she'd like it to be warmer. But it is interesting because the social acceptance, like you would go to Maine or New England or Washington in the summer because it was cooler back in the day, back when Johnson Controls was founded. You didn't need air conditioning. And so it's interesting that it came from Wisconsin, which is cooler. Just as it is interesting that Carrier is based in Syracuse, where it's cooler as well. You'd think that maybe they would be coming out of like Birmingham, Alabama, or like Tampa, Florida, because it's so hot. Anyway, tangent. I love air conditioning so much. I run it all the time. And my house here has like 2 of those like central units, one for each floor. And that was like a big selling point for me. When I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, we're living in an ice box. I'm in for this. But yeah. Also, you kind of get the, like, when you're in a city like you are, it kind of blocks out some of the white noise.
It creates the white noise. Yeah. I have to do a little bit of a shout out though. So when I was doing my field work for my PhD, I visited Zamel AC in the Eastern Province, and they were incredible. They helped me do my pilot study with a group of women that were working in the factory there that had gotten the initial training on how to manufacture their air conditioners, and that was a big thing that they were promoting really as well. So Zamel's been manufacturing air conditioners in Saudi for the past 50 years. They're Saudi made, you know, and they're very proud of that, and they're really, you know, one of the leading kind of manufacturers of air conditioners. It's a different story, but they're also, you know, made in Saudi certified, or they're part of the program, if you will. But when I went and visited the factory and spoke to the women that were working in it, again, it was kind of a new thing at the time to get women working in factories and in industry. So that was something that they were kind of leaders in at the time. And the women were really proud. They were really proud to be working. My field work was back in 2015, 2016. So right at the beginning of the vision. And so it was quite a different time. And you didn't have as many women working in general, let alone working in an industrial factory in the first industrial city in Dammam. You know, it was very different. But they were very proud because they were getting incredible training. They were moving up in their positions within the factory. They were getting supervisory roles. And it was a great experience. And it really did set the tone for kind of so much of the rest of my field work. So just air conditioners in general, I think, are really interesting. And looking at the training component in that is also really interesting, and how that's evolving within Saudi. And then talking about tech transfer and innovation, and you're going to need to innovate in this space quite a bit, because as the rest of the world is going to need air conditioning as things get warmer and the climate changes, I think we're going to need to figure out how to do it more effectively, efficiently, and better. So I think it's exciting to know that, you know, there are people that are really investing in the training component of it as well.
Yeah, Zamel's an amazing company, and part of the ecosystem, right? I mean, so you have sort of local Saudi companies that are manufacturing air conditioning. I mean, the market there is massive because it's so hot, right? I mean, everybody's got to have them. And so it's interesting. You fly into Riyadh Airport, and Zamel Air Conditioning does Riyadh Airport, and you see the Zamel units above each thing. It's sort of like a really good branding for Zamel, because you're kind of getting off the gangplank and it's usually warm, and you see the Zamel units on each gangplank and next to them, and it's just kind of you're like, oh, that's so nice. Yeah, great company. Anyway, shout out to air conditioning heading into summer. Middle East is getting hotter than any other region on the planet, so thank goodness to the pioneers that invented it and the good companies manufacturing it and distributing it. So ode to air conditioning is a deep dive this week.
So let's get to the news.
The State Department has cleared Saudi Arabia's request to procure blanket order training and related programs and logistics support services from the U.S. government under a potential $250 million foreign military sales agreement, FMS. The Defense Security Cooperation Agency, DSCA, said Tuesday the proposed FMS deal provides precision targeting, core technical and professional development training, collateral damage reduction, language proficiency courses, and ship repair facility maintainer training support for the Royal Saudi Naval Forces.
Interesting. So, according to the DSCA, the government of Saudi Arabia expects the sales package to help improve its capability to counter regional malign actors and enhance interoperability with systems run by U.S. forces in other countries in the Gulf region. So
really rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah, right? You can tell that I'm always talking about security things. So this just comes amid chatter and reports about potential U.S.-Saudi defense pact, which both the Biden administration and Saudi Arabia would like to see.
Yeah. This is cool. I mean, I love these FMS deals, and the DSCA used to be like big. I mean, Obama did the biggest one for F-15s helicopters. I think it was 2015 that was either completed. I can't remember exactly. Going to hear about that from the audience as well, would really build significantly on the informal defense alliance that has been going on. You also this week had a display of strategic cooperation, and these happen all the time. They always have really cool names. This one that happened this week was called Protection Shield 4. The Eastern Region Command in Dhahran, so close to our Eastern Province rep here, orchestrated the latest iteration of the joint Saudi-U.S. exercise, and it brought together CENTCOM, Saudi Armed Forces, a bunch of different Saudi forces and allies. The drill aimed to bolster preparedness against potential threats of mass destruction. So you do have, despite all the talk and speculation about U.S.-Saudi relations, that always goes up and down, as I've learned over 15 years, but constantly in the background is a U.S.-Saudi defense cooperation that is pretty strong and is constantly doing joint drills. Personally would love to see such a defense pact as rumored to be in the works in the media now. Would be amazing.
Saudi plans to open its first part of the Neom Giga project this year. So Sindalah, an island resort, is aimed at a luxury clientele and the global yachting community. Developers say that they want the island to be an exclusive gateway to the stunning Red Sea.
January, Marriott International said it had signed an agreement to bring apartments by Marriott Bonvoy to Sindalah. Marriott is a Maryland-based company. I'm a Virginian, but I live in Maryland, so I got to give a little shout out to Maryland. And then Marriott has really been sort of stepping up its activities in Saudi. Did an agreement in Neom to open its second Ritz-Carlton Reserve in Saudi Arabia at Trojena, I think it is, that is being built by Bechtel and others. And Sindalah, where we started off and I put you into a tongue twister with the wrong information, that we must mention is going to be sweet. It's going to be kind of like a Red Sea St. Regis like deal where like you get Ronaldo to go there and then everyone's like, I have to go. It's a new like influencer spot. And I would be so happy if they would have me to play some golf at that golf course. It's going to be so sweet. It's an island. So I haven't played golf in a while.
You yacht as well? Are you a yachting person? The yachting community?
I belong to a yacht club, but I wouldn't say that I'm a yachter. Is that what you call yourself? A yachty? No. The answer is no. No.
No. Okay. I'm going to have a yacht one day, I think.
Well, the 2030 IPO, dude. It's going to, everybody gets a yacht. Nearly a year after the framework agreement was announced between the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, and PIF/Live Golf, all of the parties have yet to formally meet together. This is according to Guy Kinnings, the new CEO of the DP World Tour, who officially took over from Keith Pelly last month. Kinnings, in a media session with a small group of UK and Irish golf writers in London, your neck of the woods, discussed his hopes. You weren't there though, right? Discussed his hopes for an agreement and also he didn't make it there. Yeah. Made clear that the European Ryder Cup rules do not need to be changed for players such as John Rahm and Tyrrell Hatton who want to be part of the team next year at Bethpage Black. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he said, and I quote, but until you get into the room with the right people, with the right intent to try and find a solution, you're never going to work out a deal. And at the end of the day, this is what's needed right now as quickly as we can. We've all seen, even with great masters, that TV figures are down. If we listen to the fans, there's something that needs to get fixed. And I see it as a huge opportunity, because if you can unite and go global, that's exactly what we're all about. End quote.
So I remember the moment when I heard about this merger. I was in Riyadh and I was like completely blown away. It came out of nowhere. It was like shocking news, and it still hasn't really happened. And that's kind of interesting. I think all the fans want this to happen in some way, so we can get back to having all the best players kind of playing against each other. It's all scattered now. Yeah, this is a little bit shocking. We don't really need to dwell on it, because, you know, I could talk about this for the whole show and you'd be falling asleep over there. But yeah, I think this is kind of interesting. They're not like in the room together, like hammering this thing out. Of course, it's not getting done. And it should be clear that this dude, Kinnings, I've never heard Guy Kinnings, another very British sounding name.
Guy,
he's sort of, yeah, he was sort of like, the other quotes he said, he's like, I really, really want this to happen. Like, we all want this to happen. Let's get it done. Anyway, interesting.
Interesting. So Architect Solar, which is based in China, has launched a new partnership with the Saudi Authority for Industrial Cities and Technology Zones, Mudun, to set up a production facility in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The factory is going to cover an area of approximately 97,000 square meters and will have a production capacity of 3 gigawatts with the potential to reach up to 10 through localized production, and will focus on PV supporting tracker products for local customers.
Wow, this is 2 weeks in a row you've read a China-Saudi deal that I have to react to. It's cool. This is also from the press release. Arctech's Jeddah factory will drive the local PV industry chains development and increase employment opportunities. This is all sort of like speak for, we're excited to be in Saudi Arabia and we really want sort of spillover, sustainable economic development. And they mentioned Belt and Road, which, you know, of course is part of China's big international economic development. Everybody in China, all these businesses in China are looking abroad because the Chinese economy is slowing down a little bit. And they're sort of like, hey, let's eye areas for international expansion. And this is 2 weeks in a row in which we've talked about a Chinese company choosing Saudi Arabia and doing a deal with Saudi Arabia because they see opportunity there more so than Qatar, Dubai, UAE, etc. So yeah, but, you know, it could be good if it was an American company too. Just, you know, a little bias coming in. It's okay.
It's okay. It's exciting. It's exciting for Saudi.
Okay. Well, but anyway, so let's step it up, U.S. solar manufacturers. Let's not lose out on deals like this, you know? So, yeah. Okay, this is me. We're wrapping it up. This has been a good one. Beast House has reportedly become one of the Saudi music scene's biggest assets, is according to Arab News, using MDLBeast's comprehensive strategy to enrich the Saudi music industry with, quote, solid infrastructure, quote, driven by a vision to provide fertile ground in which to cultivate the region's music culture. Beast House marks MDLBeast's debut investment into the music facilities sector in Saudi Arabia with an innovative tripod model that combines music, architecture, and technology to achieve its unique mission in the country.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. What is it? I don't know what it is.
So MDLBeast is like the biggest
the show.
kind of music festival, right? But it's not just that, right? It is expanding to become a platform for musicians to record, to train. There's a radio station, right? A MDLBeast radio station. I can't remember what it's called. You know, it's more than just the festival. And it's become kind of this place where people come to collaborate, as far as I understand. So I've seen, for instance, I've looked up different Saudi artists that are DJs or that are in this kind of scene. And instead of finding their information online, I find the MDLBeast website promoting them. So I think that, you know, it's becoming just a space where people who are into electronic music, into mixing, into creative ways of production can come together and collaborate. That's what I understand. So yeah, it's a tripod model that combines music, architecture, and technology. No,
Of
but
course.
also you have the reason it makes sense is only because recently I was listening to the MDLBeast radio station, and then I was looking up a DJ, TWENTY30, and I found him, and he also produces music, and I found him on the MDLBeast website talking about what that means to him. And so I feel like, yeah, it's more than just the festival. But Ramadan Haratani, I'm not sure how to say his name because it's spelled in English here, who's the CEO of MDLBeast, told Arab News exclusively, "We see Beast House becoming a cornerstone of Riyadh's music scene, a place where creativity is nurtured and talents from local and international scenes can grow. Our vision is to revolutionize the way music is experienced in the region by fostering connections in the creative community through the power of music." So again, it's like very collaborative and a space where people can come together and make music and exchange musical like techniques and culture and kind of infuse the music in different ways. I think that's what I see. That's what I'm reading here. I'm not sure. It's not my thing, but maybe we can get somebody on the show to talk about it more.
That's a good idea. It's sort of like MDLBeast was like a concert that they had.
Yeah.
It's by the way, all this is very new Saudi, obviously, public
Definitely.
music.
Yeah.
And that kind of expanded into a brand, which had other offerings. And now you have Beast House, which sounds great and cool. And that seems like it's a incubator, sort of enabler, like a physical space, right? So it's like you come here and you mix up. I'm going to sound old now. Like, yeah, record, I guess. I know that there's a famous Saudi DJ named Cosma Cat, and she's cool, and she loves cats. Great follow on Instagram, and she's been doing MDLBeast since the beginning. But I don't want to learn more about this. It seems rad. When's the next MDLBeast? Is it this coming fall? Like, it's always towards November, December, right? I think in Riyadh. And they're doing another one there's like a MDLBeast like club in Neom, right? Did you hear about that?
It's not my scene. I'm really sorry. I wish I could tell you more, but we can ask. I can ask cooler people, and they will tell me. But I also know that there was a MDLBeast concert in El Beled in Jeddah at some point as well, and that was apparently really cool. Even if people were a little bit reluctant to go to it because loud music can be kind of destructive to old buildings, but they did it well, and apparently it was just really cool. So I think that they're doing more than just the one off, and it's becoming a thing.
Yeah, I think that was the one that Ty Dolla $ign played at, and he kind of made a butthead
also
of himself.
Have no idea who you're talking about. Like,
wow,
no,
I thought we were like a younger podcast. Like, apparently not. Man. I don't know, but this is cool. Cool for them.
Yeah. So my word today is mufaja'a. Yeah. So it means surprise. But basically, I think it's a really important word to know and a good one to know, because if somebody says, "Andi lak mufaja'a," I have a surprise for you, you want to know that something exciting is going to happen. So, or if you want to tell somebody, like if they ask you what are you going to tell me, or what is it, or, what's going on, you can be like, mufaja'a, it's going to be a surprise. So I feel like it's a good word that you can drop into conversation.
Do you do surprise birthday parties or surprise parties in Saudi? I'm sure it's a thing, right? Who doesn't love a surprise party?
We did a bunch when we were in high school. I mean, I don't know that it necessarily happens as much as you're older. Like birthdays in general, not everybody celebrates birthdays in Saudi. Some people don't even know what their birthday is still. I mean, I think it's probably like more prevalent with the younger generation, but my generation, some people just didn't celebrate their birthday, weren't really sure when it was. And then the older generation, everybody was born in I think it was 1960 on the same day, July 1st. I thought
it was December 1st, 1970, right?
No. It's definitely middle of the year. They picked just the middle of the year, July.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason thought it was December. But anyway, so there was a lot of surprise birthday parties
July
on the
1st.
one day. Yeah.
So yeah, they just picked
yeah.
the date and everybody had the same birthday because nobody knew. And then like this can be a problem because my mom filled out a landing card for my dad once and she wrote the birthday that we celebrate for him, not the birthday that's in his passport. And like they got in trouble with the immigrations officer and whatever. So, you have to be careful.
Hanaa, thank you very much.
Thank you.